I am here with Ian Burns, who's the CEO and founder of REDJet, a low-cost carrier, the first to be or is low-cost carrier in the Caribbean. That is founded a couple years ago, but having challenges getting fully launched with all the requirements for landing rights and airports and certifications and things. And part of that, if I understand, Ian, is related to the business political culture here, and things work like the pace of molasses, yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the industry and the region have a lot of things in common. There's been a lot of protectionism in aviation, generally speaking, throughout the world. A lot of those barriers have been rolled down now through open skies agreements, but the Caribbean still hasn't entered into that kind of phase yet of development. And so we're here trying to change those kind of things to try and make sure that the Caribbean and the people of the Caribbean have the facilities to travel that the rest of the world have. And that's our challenge. That's what motivates us. Is to provide people with affordable travel. As Caribbean is a bunch of, it's a group of a whole load of islands where people, need to travel. They have to go places.
How much of this discussion, debate, related to facilitating REDJet, getting full access to the market, if I could put it that way, is in front of the Caribbean consumer population vis-a-vis the media? Are they familiar with this?
I think one of the benefits that we've had from the issues we faced is that we've had fantastic media coverage. So I think REDJet's brand is extremely well known in the region, and that's something I think that has sort of annoyed and upset our competitors, because they see us getting a huge amount of media coverage and they see us gaining a huge amount of public support. But that's not difficult to understand, because we did a lot of market research before we started, and we found that only 4% of people considered that airfares in the region were good value. That's a shocking indictment on any industry. And you would think that the industry itself would have actually reacted to that and started to change things. But the reality is they stayed the same, and we have come in here now and we have provided passengers with low-cost travel. People are responding extremely well to it. Our first route is from Guyana to Barbados, and that has grown by 83% in July and August and this time last year. And that speaks volumes about, the demand is in the region. It's just a question of price, and so that's what we're bringing.
Well, at the end of the day, when we look at the most recent success story for low-cost carriers is AirAsia in Southeast Asia. The growth is phenomenal, if people don't know, and if you look at who they're carrying, they're actually those farmers that were taking buses 5 years ago.
Yep.
And they're now on AirAsia, so the demographics of the description of that market is not much different than your target market, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I mean, I come from Ireland, which is a small island of Great Britain, and up to 20 years ago, people was only an hour's flight away or less, but people still couldn't go home and visit friends and relations because the cost of travel was so high. And now, because of low fare airlines, the cost of travel is so low that the amount of volume of people travelling from Ireland to the UK and backwards and forwards is phenomenal. It's now one of the busiest, they're the busiest air routes in the world. And so that's what inspires us. We see a lot of people in the Caribbean who need to be connected for friends and relations, for study, for vacation, for whatever reason, business, and they just can't, and they're separated. And so, we see this as a huge need in the region. There's a huge demand, and our challenge is to be able to produce the product that they need at a price they can afford, and that's what we work for.
Let's just be optimistic and look forward. You're successful in getting through the red tape. You have the proper financing for more aircrafts. What would the picture of REDJet be like if I look at a route map and frequency of service 5 years from now, 3 years from now? Let's go 3 years.
3 years. Well, I mean, in 3 years' time, REDJet will have probably 15 aircraft in the region. And what's going to determine this, what's going to determine the rollout speed of REDJet, is how many countries will allow us actually establish bases in their countries and fly under their air services agreements to other countries. That's the real challenge. That's what you mentioned, AirAsia. It was one of the regulatory issues they faced. So what they did is they went and got a lot of...
they formed a separate airline in Thailand called AirAsia Thailand versus AirAsia
and they operated under
Indonesia.
Under AirAsia, absolutely. And so that's one of the issues that we are looking at. We're taking a lot of business models from around the world, successful ones. AirAsia is one, and there's a classic example of how we will try to overcome the issues that we face in that particular area. You know, we take Allegiant Air in the United States of America, who have done a fantastic job of being able to fly people from smaller destinations into places like Las Vegas and other holiday destinations. We look at obviously the Ryanair in Ireland, and we see their model as well. So we're students on many, many different models, and we're also trying to put a Caribbean feel and flavour to that so that it suits the people in the Caribbean.
Is there, while the rhetoric is, or the perception that there must be some commercial benefit that can be had between existing inter-Caribbean airlines like LIA to cooperate with you, is that really a commercial reality, or would they think that way?
Well, it's clearly, I mean, most legacy airlines who are in a monopolistic state just do their utmost to keep competition out, because they actually fear competition, because they find it difficult to drive change in their own organisations. But the reality, I think, what's happened throughout the world when competition has come in, that has allowed other industries to actually bring change into their organisations on a much quicker basis, because the power shifts to the consumer. And where there's a monopoly, people who, the consumer has no choice. People say to me, $9.99 is a predatory price. I say, charging somebody $999 to fly from Guyana to Barbados or to Trinidad, that's predatory pricing. Predatory on the consumer, and it's taking advantage of the consumer because they have no choice. We give the consumer a choice. The consumer can travel with us or somebody else. And I think that's where the balance of power between supply and demand comes into play and allows markets to operate in a fair and open way.
I'm going back and thinking of Freddie Laker, Donald, some of the very early pioneers, low cost. I presume you've looked at the idea of taking some legacy charter licenses that are sitting around collecting dust and starting a flying club in these markets.
Yeah, I think the problem with legacy licenses is that you really have to still go through the process, because you have new different aircraft and you have different procedures. And
okay.
So an existing license is not much use. But I think you've got to have an optimism when you see the opportunity to go and change something. It's not going to be easy. You've got to change traditions and people's perceptions. But if you believe, and we have a fundamental belief in the consumer and what the consumer needs, when you have that belief and you see the consumers actually supporting you so well, just by telling you to keep going, giving you a pat on the back, just always encouraging you, I think that's really where the motivation comes from.
The media support, obviously. Sounds like, how long can you last, and will you fight to see your dream?
We're already, you see, at the moment now, where we are now, we now have permission to fly on, I think it's 10 routes. So we already have, once we have those routes up and running, we already have a very profitable business model. So we're over the worst humps that we can come across in terms of the barriers of protectionism that we have faced. Our challenge now is to actually be able to go and meet those needs in the marketplace and manage people's expectations of how quickly we can do that. So that's really where we're at the moment. We want to make sure that when we go into a country, we can deliver a very high quality service, and what we promise to people we deliver on.
And what's your website address?
It's www.flyredjet.com, and we've got REDJet Facebook, and we've got Twitter as well.
Ian Burns, President, CEO, Founder probably mechanic, pilot at REDJet. Thank you very much. Pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Quite simply, REDJet's vision is that everyone can fly for under $50, including taxes and charges, and any single sector return fare. REDJet has been created by consumers, for consumers, so everyone can fly. This makes REDJet unique in the region as the only carrier with this objective. We have created a compelling consumer proposition that is revolutionising travel in the Caribbean. We offer real freedom, real choice, and unlimited opportunities for citizens and businesses that just have not existed in the region until now. Our title is, as everyone knows this afternoon, is Overcoming the Hurdles, Making Inter-Caribbean Travel Work. Inter-Caribbean travel in the past was almost like a passenger asking for a favour. There was no customer service, the fares were exorbitant, and the routing was a nightmare. We at REDJet pride ourselves on being a breath of fresh air into regional travel, and we are expanding to meet the needs of our customers and the demands for our service. We are in the business and in the region for the long haul, and we will continue to provide the best and the lowest fares. The REDJet story to date has been a real roller coaster for sure. Our issues have been well documented in the media, and as a result of that, thankfully, one of the great advances is we have great brand recognition now as a result. People also love to see barriers being broken down, and the consumer wants choice. And there's a great deal that we can do to increase our brand awareness, but more importantly, deliver what we've promised to deliver. We have faced many problems, and what I think is important is we've been seen to solve those problems. Many people thought we had insurmountable problems, whether based on the fact that they were just not going to happen, or that we were just going to get sort of sucked out by delays. But I think what we have proved is we have a fantastic amount of tenacity, and that's absolutely necessary to develop any business in the Caribbean, as I believe Professor Prasad said at lunchtime today. But we've also shown a unique ability to solve problems when they have confronted us. We started with 2 aircraft, which we still have, but by the end of April next year we will have 4. One coming in December and another one coming in April next year. We promised that we would reduce the cost of travel in the region by up to 60%, and we have more than delivered on that promise. We have seen Caribbean Airlines slash their fares on the routes that we're operating on. We've even seen LIA being able to give better value to their customers. And so we have seen dramatic falls in the cost of travel. And the correlation of that is we have seen dramatic increases in the number of people travelling. BTA, Barbados Tourism Authority, said that the one route we've been operating since May, in July, grew year on year by 83% as a result of low fares in the market. We have always believed there is a pent-up demand for travel in the region, and particularly on an inter-regional basis. And I think our introduction is proving that. It's simply amazing to see what competition does for the consumer. And REDJet, after all, is an airline built by consumers for consumers.